Hi, everybody. Welcome to the members meeting for the 2022 Planetary Health Annual Conference. It's a pleasure to see you all here. My name is Joanna Wagner. I'm the PHA's Community Building and Outreach Coordinator. I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. And hello to everyone who's joining us virtually. So this is our agenda for today. I'm going to go through a quick welcome and introduction of the PHA Secretariat and various team members here who have all worked so hard to make this conference possible. And then go through a few updates from the Secretariat on kind of our community and connecting our Alliance members. We'll then talk about building the field and growing the movement, make our way to member input and discussion, and talk about next steps coming out of this meeting. So to go ahead and get started, and you'll have to forgive me, I am reading from a list because I'm very fearful of forgetting someone who contributed to this conference. But we are so delighted that you all can join us in person and online. We're really looking forward to kicking off the rest of today, seeing many of you at the aquarium later tonight, and all of the exciting programming we have over the next couple of days. So I'd like to briefly introduce all of you to the PHA staff who are with us today. PHA staff, or core team, if you know this term, you know who you are, please stand up and wave to our attendees today. Members, we ask that you find each of us throughout the course of the conference and introduce yourself so we can continue our effort of putting faces to names and finally getting the chance to meet in person. Staff, please remain standing. Sorry, I should have led with that. Here we go. So, this is our PHA Secretariat. Oh, this is our PHA Secretariat. More introductions. Our interns. Do we have any interns here in the room with us? Please also stand. So not everyone is here, as many of them are working to help man the registration desk, keep the conference going while we're in here chatting with you all. But we want to acknowledge each and every one of our interns who's here with us today. We have Bear Aragon, Joe Beauregard, Lorenz Bodner, Kent Boyd, Tulsi Modi, Ty Rogers, and Genia Sarkar, and we're really grateful for all of their support. We nearly double our work capacity with interns, so we really couldn't do this without them. Do we have any fellows in the room with us? No. Well, that's fine. I'm still going to go ahead and introduce them. Our PHA fellows here with us this week are Tatiana Camargo, Melvin Anyango, Ben Delbert, Sandeep Maharaj, Joshitha Sankam, and Andre Uhl. Our advisory board and steering committee members are also here with us this week. Do we have any advisory board or steering committee members here in the room? Hello. The PHA Secretariat's work is guided by our steering committee and advisory board. Several of our advisors and steering committee are participating and speaking this week as well, which is very exciting. At a very high level, our steering committee guides us on our core work around research and knowledge, curation, education efforts, community building, while our advisory board helps us think about mainstreaming and things of that nature. So thank you everyone for your service to the planetary health community, all of you, and for standing throughout all of these introductions. Please feel free to sit now. So many of you know this, as this is the PHA member meeting. But members and the work that they do are the Planetary Health Alliance. We, as of today, are comprised of 336 member organizations. We're growing every month. We represent, as an alliance, 64 countries, and more than 50% of countries represented are LMIC countries. So that's really exciting. Our members are universities, nonprofit organizations, research institutions, and government entities, and our presence globally grows every day. The people you just met are part of the PHA Secretariat, which exists to further the work of our members, And just if anyone's wondering, we generally onboard about 5 to 10 members per month, so pretty steady rate of growth. And the Secretariat works for our members. You'll hear more from Sam very shortly about the what and the why of our work, but at the highest levels, we work to foster the field of planetary health, grow the community, and kind of bridge the world between our members and the wider global community. Staying connected and hearing from you all is incredibly important. Some ways in which we do this are through monthly newsletters, which you all, I believe, are subscribed to. Fingers crossed. If not, I can send you a link. An annual survey, one will be coming out at the end of December, and our quarterly community calls, which we've just started pioneering in this past September, and we're really excited to continue. We also connect through initiatives such as the Sao Paulo Declaration, annual meetings, regional hub work, and next generation work in our Campus Ambassador program, which you can learn more about at our meeting here at 3:30. So I'm now, as promised, going to invite Sam up here to talk about the diagrams that we have for you. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you, Joanna. So great to see you all here. This is a really, really busy time of the year. There are a million important meetings going on all over the world, and it's really humbling to have all of you choosing to take time and travel long distances to be here with us. So thank you for doing that, and let's take full advantage of that opportunity of being together to get to know each other and find new ways to collaborate and really learn from each other. And thanks to all of you who are here virtually. We're going to make sure your voices are heard and we connect with you as well. So I was asked to just sort of help us get oriented a little bit about what we're doing and why we're doing it as a secretariat within the Planetary Health Alliance. And I was reflecting that it's been a long time since we, really came together in person. It was really the meeting at Stanford almost 3 years ago. And that there's been a huge sort of evolution in how we think about what we're doing that really reflects an evolution in what's happening around the world. And, our story is really the story of being in full sprint, trying to kind of keep up with all the global momentum and all of the new initiatives and ideas that are springing up from all of you all over the globe. And figuring out how, every 3 months to sort of reinvent ourselves to be relevant to what's happening in the global planetary health community and to support all of that activity. At the sort of largest scale, I would say that, the first several years of the Planetary Health Alliance's existence, we were really, really focused on how we could help to catalyze the growth of a sort of rigorous, evidence-based, global planetary health field, an interdisciplinary, brand new field focused on really understanding and addressing the human health effects of human transformation of our planet's natural systems. How does that come back to affect our own health? And how do we effectively grow this interdisciplinary field and the community of practice that's going to carry that field forward all over the world as quickly as possible? What can we do as an alliance to support that growth? And so in a lot of ways, our focus has really been historically on what we sort of call the left side of the diagram, the sort of side that looks more almost like a professional society, the curation of the new knowledge and research that's coming from all of you, from our universities, from our nonprofit organizations. Can we hold all of that new knowledge and reflect it back to the community? How do we teach planetary health, working on creating a textbook, on case studies, on an educational platform, again, on this sort of curation of work that many of you have been involved in, and then sort of pulling all of that together and collating it and making it a resource for all of you to draw on in support of educational efforts. And then the sort of community building that is happening hopefully right here, and that we've been involved in lots of different ways, from the first annual meeting we held in this building 6 years ago, to more sort of focused community building efforts like the Planetary Health Campus Ambassador Program that many of you have been engaged in, the Clinicians for Planetary Health effort that works with clinicians around the world, the regional hub development that we just had a big meeting about and that's really suddenly starting to get an enormous amount of momentum. So how do we support these different kinds of communities of practice around the world? And so that was our focus really for the first 3 or 4 years. Basically because there was no field of planetary health. It wasn't in even sort of common parlance as a term until 2015 and the release of the Rockefeller Lancet Commission report on planetary health. So there's a lot of work to do just to kind of create a field. What's been kind of astonishing is that the field has exploded. And so as you all know, we have tons of new, journals, degree programs, professorships, courses, national initiatives, multilateral initiatives, institutes in planetary health. And so the field has kind of taken off. And so the next question, because none of us are here, right, because of academic curiosity. None of us are here to sort of pursue our individual accomplishments in pure sort of science research. We're here because we sort of recognize the urgency of this moment that we're in, and we recognize that our destruction of natural systems is precipitating a global health crisis, and that there's an urgency to that. And so building the field isn't enough, right? It's sort of necessary but not sufficient. So what do you do next? And our thinking has been that now that there is this field, how can we as an alliance begin to help to mainstream this new knowledge and this sort of conceptual framework and understanding of the moment that we're in as a global society into the worlds of action and decision making, out to policymakers, to the private sector, to the general public? How can we help to sort of wake up the world to the urgency of this moment and the fact that we can't sort of continue on this trajectory with and still have a livable future? And so this need for what we call the great transition, for this sort of transformational change in how we live to reduce our ecological footprint and to protect and regenerate our life support systems, how can we help in that process of mainstreaming those ideas so that the world kind of begins to understand the urgency of this transformational change? And this is really where we started to reach out to a group of advisors and building out the advisory board. We're lucky to have Joe Gatto here, who's chairing the advisory board. We've got a really wonderfully sort of diverse group of advisors from all over the world and from 3 particular sectors where we wanted help. One was in policy, so people that are able to help us think about sort of multilateral and national policy making. People that can help connect us to the private sector because that's not where our strength is, and help us think about how we make inroads there. And people that are good at communicating and can help us to think about how we change this global narrative. And so that's been part of how we built the advisory board. And now when we think about sort of where our focus is and what we really want to be doing over the next few years, there basically is this strain of taking this community of practice that we've been building and this knowledge and mainstreaming it. And one of the main things we're thinking about is how do we get all the health workers, both clinical and public health workers in the world, to really understand that we can't do our jobs, that we can't effectively safeguard human health into the future without protecting and regenerating our natural life support system. So understand that there is no public health without planetary health. And so there's a lot of work where they're doing now with sort of networks of medical education associations, with public health associations, with the World Federation of Public Health Associations that we heard from this morning, with UN systems, to think about this process of integrating planetary health understanding across national and regional medical education, nursing education, public health education, et cetera. And then building power, right? So none of this is anything that we can do alone. So sort of building out these partnerships. And we've been working on the regional hubs, and that's one way to sort of build power, on building youth leadership. And we're having a meeting I'm really excited about this afternoon at 3:30 with youth leaders, and to start to think more effectively about how we network youth leaders around the world. Thinking about these other regional groups, thinking about sort of alliances of alliances. So we had someone from the Wellbeing Economies Alliance with us earlier this morning. We're working with the Global Commons Alliance. So all of these different ways, essentially to try to sort of build momentum and build power, ultimately with the idea of integrating the understanding that comes from our community into policy and the private sector. And we're seeing a lot of really exciting developments along those lines that we can talk more about. But that's the basic framework. So what we're doing is not a coincidence. It's not haphazard, even though it might look like it, but it's actually pretty intentional, and it's pretty focused on this sort of theory of change, that we needed a field and we needed people to really understand that there's an evidence base linking our degradation of natural systems to a global health crisis, and that then we need to link that knowledge and those frameworks out to decision makers and action. So that's the sort of what we're doing and the why we're doing it, and Marie's going to talk a little bit about the how we're doing it and the who's doing it.
Hello, everyone. So excited to be here and to be speaking with each of you. And really, the best part will be about when we have dialogue together and talk to each other about what we do. I'm going to show you 2 slides which are like impossible, right? They're just messy, they're too big, and that's actually part of what I want to show you. This is what I like to call the Planetary Health Alliance ecosystem. And centered within that, as you can see, is our membership. And that's all of you, and the people online, and people who aren't able to be here. But the PHA membership is what drives the work of the Alliance. And I just want to make sure that you know that, and that we try as best as we can to do that in partnership with you. So hearing from you and hearing why you need something and what you need is really important. So we'll keep getting back to that as we ask you to fill out surveys or questionnaires or come talk to us. So when this started out, as you can see sort of at the top, there's the staff that you met and our leadership with our advisory council and steering committee and all. So those people are there. And then at the top, it's the core stuff that Sam just mentioned that we do. We have the research and knowledge curation, our education, and we're doing this community building through things like the annual meeting. But around each of those, there's lots more activity. It's not just education. It's like, okay, education for whom? In what country, in what geography, how do we do it, and so on, in the Next Gen Network. The next layer out, if you will, is those aligned institutions who may or may not be members, but many of them are. Sam mentioned the Wellbeing Economies Alliance, who is here this morning. We have colleagues at United Nations Development Program, for example. We have ecological conservation organizations or national academies who are in our sphere. They're people and groups that do work similar to ours, but not completely planetary health, but we can't do our work without them either. They're providing us with the evidence base of what they do. They are providing opportunities for us to speak. They're providing opportunities for us to get planetary health into policy documents, whatever that might be. And then that outside sphere is that more elusive general public, policymakers, private sector. And you can see over here on the left, we have that arrow called mainstreaming. And this is where we try to bridge our internal community of planetary health, people who are like, let's go, we've got it, we know what to do, with the outside world that's like, what? I don't know, is something happening? And so we try to do that, and what we try to do through that work is really what I call create enabling environments, right? So we want to set all of you and ourselves up for success. And in order to do that, part of our work is going out into that broader world and telling people about planetary health, convincing them that it's important, letting them understand what's at stake, so that when everybody in our membership comes along to do what they need to do, that environment is set up and is friendly for you to do your work. Now, we do that collectively, but that is part of the work of the Secretariat. The next thing I want to say, and Sam mentioned and Joanna alluded to, is the Secretariat itself is about 7 people. And then we have another 7 interns, right, who double our capacity. And then we have fellows who double our, who continue to expand our work. And then we have our advisors and our steering committee. We actually depend on all of you to get our work done and our collective work done. And so one of the things that's important to us, and we want to figure this out because I think we've done it, but we haven't done it as well as we could, is to figure out what we call a distributed management and working group structure. And that is, we don't want the core Secretariat or Alliance to be hundreds and hundreds of people. That's not smart or effective in terms of how we want to work. We want to stay pretty lean and mean. But what we want to do is enable our regional hubs. We want to enable our working groups. We want to enable other people. And what we would like to say here is, we have PHA staff, but we need help doing whatever it is that you also want to do. So Teddy Potter is here, among others, from the Clinicians for Planetary Health. That was one working group. But there could be several other working groups wherever your passion is. It could be in the realm of education. It could be in the realm of arts and culture. It could be in wherever you have a passion and an interest, and wherever you think a change could be leveraged. We would love to hear from you, especially if you would like to take some leadership and ownership in that area. We're here to support you in ways that we can, but as you know, we don't have a staff person to do all of that. So I'm just inviting you to think about where you would like to put your energy, and if it's not in something central to one of our initiatives, come speak with us so that we can help create potentially a new working group with you on that. And so now I think we'll just open it up, and Joanna and Sam, actually, Joanna and Sam should say if we've missed anything critical to our conversation here. Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. I think now what we'd like to do is really open it up for you, because this is supposed to be a conversation. And so when you do, if you have anything to say, please raise your hand, and there's also someone monitoring online. Okay, and please identify yourself, your name, your institution, and where you're from, so that we have a sense of who is coming. And come on up, because Joanna's got something better to say.
Definitely not. But just a technical note. So we are recording this meeting. Obviously, all of us here can hear each other if we project out. But if you would like your statement, question, to be captured in the recording, it needs to come up from up here so that the mic can capture it. So to that point, anyone who's calling in from online, please put your questions, comments, concerns in the chat, and I'll come up and read them out to the rest of the group to make sure that we just get them all on the record.
Great. So let's go ahead and start. And so number one, I just want to see a raise of hands. Is everyone in this room a member or a member organization? Do we know? Yeah? Mostly, yeah. That's great. That's great. So terrific. So I'd love to see if there are any questions, first of all, in terms of what we've presented. And is that also just to know if that's new to you, or does it feel pretty much aligned with how you thought the Alliance worked? Any reflections on that? Great. So Carlos just requested that we repeat the question through the microphone. Okay, now am I missing? Joe?
So,
Yes.
and it's a little complicated.
It is complicated, and really what I meant to say as well, that it's a spectrum, people fit in at different places. So the question really, or statement from Joe Gatto was that on that distributed management slide, if you look on that, do you see where you might fit, like who you might interact with or what working group you might interact with? And if you do, say hello, and have that conversation. Also bring others who might be interested in that topic into that conversation. If you don't know where you fit, let's figure that out. That's either because maybe you're new to the Alliance and don't know about the work that's going on, or you're not represented. So for example, we don't have an arts and culture working group or something like that. So maybe we need to position that. So, and we have the next 2 days to do some of this work, but certainly otherwise as well. Yes. So why don't I just try to reiterate that thought, and then have other people, Sam, Carlos, also have a conversation about this as well. So it's really about educational materials and sort of being more aligned, if you will, or having sort of a stamp or a credential from Planetary Health Alliance, if I am understanding this correctly, to say, yes, this piece, this curriculum or this piece of education work is aligned with the Planetary Health Education Framework. It's recognized as such, and that way people know that it's, I guess, sort of approved, if you will, but it also might be encouraging for others to join the Alliance, to also make sure that they are somehow aligned with the Planetary Health Education Framework, and just get it more distributed, make it more available, and make it more recognizable. Did I capture that? Does anybody else, who would like to respond to that? Carlos, Sam? And do you want to come up here, because I'm going to... We can probably...
I think that was a bad idea on my end, Marie.
Yeah. Marie.
I just thought people were going to be shy.
Marie, we also have this to use now.
Oh, great, great.
around.
So, Jennifer, thanks for the suggestion. I think from the Alliance, we've always been very careful not to be prescriptive of what is and what isn't, and who can participate and who isn't. So certain things like certifications or badges are things that we try to not be prescriptive about, because we also know that we want to be inclusive at this moment, and we don't want people to think that, oh, just because I'm not doing it perfectly, or maybe I'm not doing it in exactly the way that the framework or any other framework that we use might say, we have not necessarily chosen that direction. Of course, now we have things like individual memberships that include that then people can participate from their different fields or from different movements, and we really encourage people from different parts and sectors of society to participate. And so to your question, our gut reaction has always been, well, let's not be prescriptive. And I hope that kind of opens up the forum for more commentary. But I actually want to ask you a question. What do you think the motivation would be for doing something like that? I kind of want to return the question to you.
So one of the motivations would be, in a way, if you don't know the Planetary Health Alliance is there, how do you find out about it? So, for instance, if you go to the website, you can see institutions that are members of the Planetary Health Alliance. But if you had kind of an official stamp, when students were applying, for instance, they would see the Planetary Health Alliance. It would be a stamp if you were applying as a consortium that the Planetary Health Alliance members. It might carry some weight with some funding bodies.
Sure, nope.
And also, as you say, if it's not perfect, actually perhaps people who are developing those courses would like it to be more aligned, but actually don't necessarily know you're there. And that's quite interesting. Sometimes when I've come across people who are using the Planetary Health name, and I explain to them about the Planetary Health Alliance, they literally haven't come across it, which is I find really odd, particularly when they're kind of working in that field. But it's a way of kind of getting the Planetary Health Alliance's name out there as well. So and kind of drawing people in and actually saying, yeah, I want to be part of that. And I'm not quite sure I've heard this term, I want to do it, I'm not quite sure what that course would be. And then, you've got the educational framework, and you can see some of the things in that they might not necessarily put in the course. So the equity and social justice, I think, is a really important part of it. The movement building side of it is really important. And actually, if you're calling yourself planetary health, you're not just a conservation program. You do actually have those things in there as well. So I kind of think it works both ways. It gets Planetary Health Alliance's name out there and encourages people to do it. But also, if you're using the name Planetary Health, it both helps you to understand what that should be and make sure that you kind of are aligned.
Sure. No, I appreciate that comment. And I think we encourage all our members to be very open about their membership in the Alliance. So we encourage people to add our logo to their institutional Alliance or their website so people know about the Alliance. And I think that's an important thing to do when we're trying to get our word out on who we are. I also want to add that what we're trying not to do is be the evaluators onto what counts and what doesn't count. So there's a difference there. There's a nuance there between how we want to kind of sell or tell their story and have people be encouraged to meet and join the Alliance versus us being prescriptive and saying this is what Alliance is, and if you're not here, then you can't be here, right? Which is there's a tiny difference there, which is not so tiny when you think about it. But I think Sam wanted to say something.
No, I mean, mostly I'd love to hear more conversation from all of you and reflections on this and other topics. I agree, Carlos, with everything you said. I think when we started the Alliance, the whole idea was to make a really, really big tent and not to do anything that was too exclusive, but also to try to play a leadership role with all of you in solidifying a definition of what planetary health, is. Define competencies in education, for example, some of the work that Carlos has led, help create a textbook. So just define the field, but not in a way that says we have a monopoly on any of it. And so there's an element to what you're saying, Jenny, that I really like, and there's an element that I think makes us uncomfortable, and I think there's a way to do both of those things. So I wonder if, as opposed to sort of saying approved by, it's not sort of supported by, right? So it's like educational efforts that were supported by the Planetary Health Alliance just means that we've had a chance to have some input and to look into them. And if that's of value to people, then terrific. And if it isn't, well, that's okay too. But it's not us playing the sort of policing role in deciding what is and what isn't okay. It's just saying, we were engaged in this effort. The Telesaud course that came out of Brazil, we had a chance to really look at that material. You all did the hard work of translating it from Portuguese into English. We could look at it carefully, and then we could partner with it. And so if that's meaningful to people, that they can see that the PHA was engaged in it, terrific. If it's not, that's okay too. But so I think we could play with something like that just was a way to flag our engagement with projects, not only in education, but in other areas, which would help to get the name of the Alliance out there, but wouldn't be playing this sort of any kind of a policing function. But I'm curious if other people have thoughts about this or just big picture, so we sort of defined this theory of change, this way of sort of thinking about what we're doing as a secretariat. Are there things that you all think are missing from that conceptualization? In terms of Joe's question about where you see yourself in this distributed leadership effort, are there engagements you'd like to have? I mean, I think the point with that distributed, leadership is partly that the world is very, very big and our team is very, very small, and you all are very, very creative. And so there's an opportunity to say, we want to celebrate your work, we want to support it. If you're doing something incredibly cool at the national or municipal level, let us know about it and let's think how we can connect it to other really cool, opportunities in other municipal levels or to a conversation that we just heard about in Europe or Southeast Asia. So let us try to connect you to the global conversation around the things that you're thinking about, or just enrich us with the material you're having, and we'll broadcast it back out to a community that might be interested and receptive. But anyway, the floor is open, so anybody with thoughts or ideas? I see a hand in the way back.
Hello. All right, hi everyone. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Marie. My name is Gloria Blaze. I'm a PhD candidate at Cornell University in the Department of Natural Resources and the Environment, also working in the Public Health and Ecosystem Health Department. And so my question and comment is not really on this particular topic, but it is one, my timing was bad this morning. I really would have liked to have made it to the Hubs meeting, so it was an opportunity to do that again. And of the 2 days, I would gladly enjoy that. If there's anyone in the Caribbean Hub, I would love to meet you. And more specifically, my question is about integrating the aspect of fragility. I work in Haiti. My research has been in Haiti for the past couple years, and so recognize that not everywhere in the world is the same. And of course, the colonial roots in which some of these countries are founded have created these environments that aren't conducive to trying to do these transformative things like trying to adopt a planetary health approach to everything. And so, of course, having some kind of specialized working group requires manpower or human power. And so my comment is just to consider the fact that some of us are doing work in countries that are hard to try to make these things come to life. And it would be interesting to hear anyone else's experience working in so-called fragile states, and also hearing about opportunities for trying to make a more specific, I guess, conceptual framework for fragile states and planetary health there. So my work is agroforestry, accelerating agroforestry adoption in Haiti for planetary health. Thank you, everyone.
I'll just quickly react to that. So the community obviously is larger than what is present here and present online. Of course, we have members that couldn't attend, but we do encourage people to connect via a platform that we've created for the PHA community, which is Hilo. So if you post in Hilo something like that, you might start to gain some momentum. I know someone asked me about humanitarian crisis earlier. That might be kind of an overlapping area of interest that you might want to connect with. And so I would encourage, as Marie said very clearly, the Alliance is fueled by the network members. I don't know if fueled, is that a correct word we can use anymore? Well, it's powered by the members. So again, if you want to maybe take the leadership on an initiative on looking at what planetary health looks at in fragile states or recovering states or states that need better structures, that's an area that at least at the Alliance we haven't looked at carefully, and it might be an interesting area of scholarly work that you might want to lead as an Alliance member with other Alliance members. So thank you for that part. And degrowth? Did you say degrowth? No, I couldn't hear.
No, thank you.
She said thank you.
Okay, and I said and degrowth, and I'm like, yes, and degrowth.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Castleton. I'm an impact chair in transformative governance for planetary health. Not my title. The university hired me to do that work at the University of Victoria on Vancouver Island in Canada. I'm a relatively new individual member of the Alliance. And I'm a critical social scientist working as a white scholar in solidarity with Indigenous peoples. And I guess one of the things that struck me when I first read the Whitney et al. Paper was just that planetary health is very much an Indigenous way of being and knowing the world. And calling this a new science is problematic, but I don't want to get into that. It's more just around looking at the working groups, that it seems like something that's missing is a working group. And I know that there's conversations afoot amongst Indigenous colleagues in that area. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention, I guess, in this forum. And I think another thought I had just around the idea of like, I guess, so I do community-based participatory research, and I started doing it before CBPR became sexy. And then suddenly everybody was doing CBPR, everybody was engaging with communities, and then you start to get critical about like, well, what does that actually mean? And are you co-creating the research questions, co-creating the way in which you're going to collect data, the way in which you're going to analyze, and then co-deciding where you're going to share those findings, with whom, at what time, et cetera. And so I guess it's maybe just a cautionary note around the excitement about how this alliance and just the concept of planetary health is exploding, but to also be thinking about maybe a little bit along the lines of what you're saying about recognizing that people are co-opting the concept. They're not actually embodying the work of what planetary health is supposed to be, at least from my situated perspective and working in solidarity with Indigenous peoples on this work. So that's just a sort of a cautionary concept to the group to consider. And then finally, just on your point about fueling, I was also thinking about funding, and if the alliance is going after funding, is there some principles of integrity about where funding would be received from and where we would reject it as an alliance? So those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. First of all, I didn't know CBPR was ever sexy, so thank you for. Yeah. So just to get to your comment, thank you for those observations, and we do acknowledge that we are, as a group, as an alliance, as a community, we try to acknowledge that we are a community that brings together different ways of knowing and different ways of understanding the world. And we try to recognize the importance of Indigenous knowledge in how we understand this interconnectivity and kind of the mess that we are currently in. Although we would wish we would have more representativity, for sure, we're always encouraging more representativity from communities that might carry other ways of knowing. We welcome people to be critical of that, and if you know people that want to join us in that sense, I think there is a complete inclusivity in that sense. Personally, myself, I've worked with Indigenous peoples, and that has informed not just one of these areas of work, but we try to have them included in all types of work. Beyond tokenism, we really value the ways of knowing that are present in the different cultures around the world. But thank you for your observation. I think the other thing, that the last comment I think about, the funding, I wouldn't know how to, again, police that and to use some of Sam's verbiage, but we definitely would encourage as an alliance that people do look at their investment or their funding portfolio to make sure that the funding is coming from sources that are, of course, respectable, ethical, sustainable. You add the adjective there of what you think you might want to value, but we encourage all members to do that. I don't know, Sam, do you want to add something?
Just very quickly, in terms of our funding, I'm not sure if that's what you were asking about, but our funding historically has come from just a handful of sources that have been foundations, like the Rockefeller Foundation, the Wellcome Trust. We're in the process now of diversifying our funding, but I'm trying to think, almost, I think 100% now from foundations and individuals. So we're not taking money from companies, particularly, I think if there were companies that were incredibly clearly aligned with planetary health in terms of their mission, then that would be a conversation. But to date, that hasn't become an issue because no one's been showering us with money from the corporate sector. So.
Questions over in this area, so I'm gonna.
Hi everyone, thanks. So I'm Heidi Rogers. I'm an educator in nursing and interprofessional education at the University of New Mexico. But I'm here also as the head of the Planetary Health Task Force for the American Holistic Nursing Association, and also as a board member of the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine. So with those two hats, I wanted to ask if we could talk structurally about where our professional organizations can fit in, and then how we can be in service to the work that the Planetary Health Alliance is doing. So hopefully that question's interesting to the rest of the community. Thank you.
So I love that question. It's really nice to meet you. I can think of about 50 ways right off the top of my head, but I think that's exactly the spirit of this meeting. Is there is so much unbelievable strength in your community, for sure. I don't know if Atara is here. You're over here from the Osher Center in Integrative Medicine. You two should be talking to each other. But that whole conversation about how to engage, communities where there is at least some overlap in the Venn diagrams, and how you can serve as sort of a portal for us to bring planetary health into these big communities that would be receptive. And I think, holistic nursing, boy, that sounds like a perfect example. Integrative medicine is another one. And so I think it's what Marie meant about we're not trying to drive this, and we certainly aren't capable of covering the incredibly rich landscape out there which is all fertile soil for engagement and activity in planetary health. So anytime any of you are having those kinds of thoughts about where does my community fit in here, how can we more effectively engage, how can I bring what you guys are doing in the Planetary Health Alliance into our community, or vice versa, please do reach out to us, because we're really enthusiastic about having those conversations. So we'd love to talk.
Hello, I just want to honor the fact that we do have our some members online, and so a question just came in from Simon from the Wellbeing Economy Alliance. Actually, he says, thank you. I see a lot of potential working together with the Wellbeing Economy Alliance. I wonder how you see the economy and economic shifts underpinning transformation in planetary health. As my colleague Daniel mentioned this morning, we see economic shifts unblocking many of the challenges of planetary health. This connection was not explicit, and maybe it is something we can work on together. And so I think the answer is yes. Thank you, Simon, for your question. And I think it layers on exactly what Sam just mentioned earlier is, yes, yes, yes. We need to work together. We want to build these alliances of alliances. We have a particular sweet spot in terms of really bridging and connecting deteriorating natural systems with deteriorating human health, if you will, or that making that connection. And the converse is also true. But we also need allies and experts in economies, in governance, in all of those things. And so if we can continue to work together and pair together, stand shoulder to shoulder on this, that will be really important. We also hope that these alliances that we're working with will be important, as we mentioned this morning, maybe for the regional hubs, for example, because they also have regional hubs. So how do we connect and network across the globe?
Yeah, and just to add to that a teeny bit in response to Simon's question, or actually sort of observation that economic transformation doesn't loom large on our website, for example. There are lots of things that we don't cover effectively on our website. And so each one of those should be seen as an opportunity by anybody who sees the glaring omission. And if anybody wants to work on a page or an explanation or improve, like, again, this is all a vehicle that's ours. It's not ours, it's all of ours. And it'd be great to have a discussion about economic transformation. I mean, we talk about the Great Transition, we talk about the need for deep, rapid structural shifts in how we live. Clearly, economic transformation is a part of that, because that needs to be the engine for building the kind of global society that we want, that emphasizes health and protecting natural systems and equity and elder care and child care and all the things that we value as opposed to accumulation of capital, which isn't necessarily something that we value in its own right, and yet that's what we sort of steer towards right now. So if we're not doing a good job describing that, if we're not doing a good job making that accessible to the community, see that as an opportunity. There are a million things we're not doing a good job of because there's too much to do. So all of those things are opportunities where we'd love to work with any partners who want to contribute to what we're saying.
We have a question from Vanessa and then Assad.
Hello, everybody. I'm Vanessa Góes. I'm from Brazil. I'm an integrative health professional. I am in the Clinicians for Planetary Health. Actually, tomorrow I will be talking about, for the clinicians practice, how lifestyle medicine have already set framework to introduce planetary health dimension into the clinic. I'm a dancer, I'm an artist, I'm a mother, and I'm finishing my PhD in food science in Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. So what I was going to say, I probably forget something, but it was about, it was about exactly that came out with Simon, and here is, we need to bring this field. I thought about that in the planetary, I'm an ambassador, I'm planetary health ambassador. We need to get out of the academic field. Because I had this experience in the, with, what is that called? It's climate reality project. I am a leader there now, and they have all levels of society. Private, NGO, students, and this moves because we reach, so this is one thing that I would like to say to rethink, to get a little bit to this community building, all these veins that you're building to reach, to enlarge it, because it's crucial that we bring the economic, the people that deal with economics, because economics talks about resources. And planetary health is talking about resources. So we need to bring these people to understand how how much resource and profit they can get investing in this kind of work, investing in this direction for humanity. So I think this is so crucial because to bring the business side to planetary health, so people can be engaged in doing this work and being able to be sustainable in your own things. So I think that's what so yeah, maybe I forgot something too, but if I remember. Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa.
I just I want to send a shout out that, yes, I agree with you. I think the community needs to diversify more. We are born from a community of academicians, and we want to expand beyond. And I think one of the brilliant pieces of work that came out of our last conference was the Sao Paulo Declaration, which is, it's basically talking to all sectors of society and saying, this is what you can do, this is why you can be part of our community, right? Our broad community in kind of a capital letters. So we do invite you as members of the Alliance also to work as ambassadors of the Alliance and trying to bring in more people. And if you don't know exactly how that person fits in, you can go look at the Sao Paulo Declaration, and we have there directions and clear language that you can use for artists, for policymakers, for people in the private sector, for people that are organizing communities. Absolutely everyone is represented or can see themselves represented in that document. So I do encourage that, and I do want to send a shout out to our Brazilian colleagues that helped with that declaration so closely. So thank you.
Thank you. My name is Assad. I'm a campus ambassador from Planetary Health University of Oslo, and I am a research fellow there. So I actually want to talk about the first topic, that research and knowledge curation. So my question to Sam, that is there any plan to add something about the research and knowledge generation in addition to curation? Because the Campus Ambassador program, the Next Generation program, I think they have added a momentum to Planetary Health Alliance activities. And I feel myself as a strong voice and advocate for this movement. But in addition to social movement, there are many members, or especially the young members, they are particularly from public health or research background. And after the end of the education in planetary health or this knowledge, they want to use this knowledge in their practical field. So as you mentioned that Rockefeller Foundation, Gates Foundation, or Wellcome Trust, whatever the big foundation, they are giving lots of money for the research in different perspective. Is there any plan to negotiate with them for some research money in the planetary health work just for this purpose, and for some allocate some money, maybe definitely it would be competitive for the young generation planetary health people who want to work on the planetary health issues for change in the community engagement, or for example, some seed money or for some small grant to work on the planetary health issues. It may be agroforestry, it may be food safety, it may be whatever, antibiotic resistance, it may be environmental justice or social science, but related to planetary health. So I really want to hear about it.
Yeah, thanks, Mohammed. So we don't, within the Planetary Health Alliance, we don't do research ourselves. I do research, but not under my Planetary Health Alliance hat. But we do see it as our job to try to create a more enabling environment for planetary health research. And so that's sort of the line that we draw. I think we'd have a hard time going to a foundation like the Rockefeller Foundation and saying, you should create a fund for this, and it should be tailored to next generation researchers. I don't think we'd get a lot of traction there. But what we are doing is, for example, I was just on a small panel with the National Science Foundation talking about how this is an underfunded area that really needs support. And we wrote a report about how to address health effects of global environmental change to try to move NSF. There was just a National Academy of Medicine panel that we participated in on the same topic. The NIH has just had a convening on this topic. The Royal Dutch Academy of Science is now doing a scoping on research gaps in planetary health. The EU Horizon agenda, which actually hasn't published yet, I don't think, but is about to be published, which has a real clear focus on planetary health, as does the HERA agenda, the Health and Environment Research Agenda from the EU. So there is this sense of sort of increasing sort of awakening among national funding agencies, at least in the wealthier countries, to support this kind of work, which didn't exist even 5 years ago. So I think that's encouraging. But I also think there's an opportunity for something more sort of interstitial than what I'm talking about that might address your needs, which is how can we help our community position themselves now that these funding opportunities are beginning to crop up? How can we support collaborative research efforts from within our community? So we just had this meeting in Amsterdam that some of you were at, where research is one of the working groups, and now there's a follow-on meeting to think about how do we position ourselves to access these new Horizon grants and build collaborations. But that should be going on around the world. And in fact, we have great strength through our global representation, because many of these funding sources, appropriately are really emphasizing the need for research collaborations that include lower and middle income countries and that are focused on the most vulnerable people in the world, most of whom are living in lower and middle income countries. So how do we tailor research that involves those communities more effectively? And what can we do as an alliance to network and position ourselves to try to access these funds as they become available? So I think that would be an interesting sort of activity for us to be involved in. I'm not sure what the answers are, but if there are people in this group or people listening in online who have ideas for how to more effectively do that kind of networking to access research funds and to build knowledge, I think that would be really interesting.
All right. Hi, everyone. Great to meet you all here. My name is Iris. I am a medical doctor from the Netherlands and currently a PhD candidate at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, where I research mitigation and adaptation of healthcare systems under actually Sarah Whitney and Andy Haynes. I'm also the next generation representative on the steering committee of the PHA. So thank you so much for the presentation. I think it's really exciting to see all the work and to see a visual representation of it as well. And what you mentioned, I'm sorry if I'm giving feedback. What you mentioned, Marie, about the working groups, I think that's a very exciting opportunity to expand and grow together as well. And I was wondering, and I think this is a question for all of us, not necessarily to put extra work on the Secretariat, but I do see a great opportunity as well to try and strategize around synergies between working groups as we further develop them. So how is that something that we can do to find those synergies between working groups and the collaborations between them as we develop the working groups further?
Yeah, I was going to say, Iris, that's an excellent point. And I think, for example, just even within the two initiatives that we have going in terms of regional hubs, and membership and next generation, that's something that we're working on now, and it's a big priority for this coming year now that we have some extra hands on deck. We just brought in Nikki Christensen, our new communications manager, so hooray, so we can free up some additional work. But yeah, and so it's not only the work that we do within our regional hubs and say, hey, there's a next gen program that you should be aware of, and how do we bring those two together, and hey, membership, look what's happening in your region, but it is also, I think, about some communication that we'll be doing, and being able to ask our community and then hopefully reflect back, because I think that is something that we need to do as an alliance, is to try to keep you all informed and reflect back what's going on. And just as Sam said, we have gaping holes on our website. Partly, some of that is because we haven't had the capacity to update the website, which we know needs to be updated. But part of it's that we just don't have the capacity to do all of those things. So encouraging all of you again to take some leadership on those working group pieces, but bring those ideas forward too on how we can better collaborate and to find those synergies.
Here, here, and there.
More of a comment, actually. I'm Alison Greenhalgh-Ball, and I'm from the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. So it's a response to Vanessa's kind of comments earlier. So I just wanted to thank you for the forum this week. You know, it's a really pivotal movement that you've got here. It's very special. And as such, we've chosen to launch our flagship report today, whilst we're here, which will enable business to realise their contributions to global health, of course, planetary health and human health. And this is a very pragmatic report that is a rally cry, really, for CEOs throughout the world on how they can put planetary health into the heartland of their business strategy, because the business benefits are unique and clearly demonstrable. However, if we don't do that, obviously the consequences we know are pretty bleak. So if you want to hear any more about the report, then do approach me. I'd love to share more with you. You know, it's not our report, it's for business communities and other communities throughout the world. So thank you for your hospitality and your warm welcome.
So my name is Xueting Jiang. I'm a faculty member at School of Management in New York Tech. So I'm still new to the Planetary Health Alliance, but I actually did some small studies on the website. And I think in the website there's interesting things called a constellation project, which is more bring to the religious and a spiritual part of the pieces in this Planetary Health Alliance. I'm not sure at this moment, because when I look at this, like the slides over here, it seemed to me that it's not included in the working group or any other unit. So I try to know from Sam and other people, get more ideas, because I did see some recent updates on the Constellation project, and there's a new small pamphlet and other speeches and events over there. There's a YouTube channels on that, but I try to know more about this part of the activities. Right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So the Constellation project is a little bit of a pet project that came out of a collaboration that I initially developed with Terry Tempest Williams, who's a writer, who's now a writer in residence at the Harvard Divinity School. And it was and is sort of focused on the sort of spiritual dimension of this conversation, sort of underneath the Earth crisis and the sort of global health crisis that it's precipitating. Is there also a sort of spiritual crisis, and have we somehow sort of ruptured our relationship with nature, and how did the sort of reverence and awe that many of us experience in certain natural settings lose their authority to guide our decisions? How is it that we're comfortable treating our oceans and our atmosphere as gigantic garbage bins? You know, how are we comfortable extinguishing entire species off the face of the earth? And what has somehow gone wrong at a sort of emotional and spiritual level in how we're living? And so it is a piece of what we're doing. It's a little bit of a side piece, partly because it's not really my day job, and it's not anything that I'm particularly trained in as a scholar. I'm trained in medicine, and so it's sort of exploratory. And but I would certainly, again, I mean, there is extraordinary opportunity. There's so many of you that know so much more than I do about these kinds of topics. I think it's also an incredibly rich place to engage our artists. And I also think at the end of the day that what drives the kind of transformational change that we're talking about is not intellectual. It's emotional, and it's deep caring about, you know, the natural world. It's deep caring about our children or our grandchildren and what kind of futures they're going to have. And so I think it's actually kind of important, and I'd actually be really curious to hear Susan Prescott speak to this, because I think your in vivo community is much more kind of attuned to this conversation. I think it's important that we engage at that level. I've always been a little hesitant about kind of putting this front and center in the middle of the PHA, because being prescriptive in any way about things sort of emotional and spiritual is how we divide ourselves very quickly and all go to war with each other. But I think acknowledging that this is a dimension of the conversation that's very important is important. So, Susan, I'd love, if I can put you on the spot, I'd love to hear your reflections, because I think you're wiser than I am about this, and then anybody else who wants to jump in.
Thank you so much, Sam, and thank you for the opportunity. I believe this is a very important and core part of this whole agenda. And I know there are many amongst us who feel the same, and we would really like to perhaps spearhead something along that line as one of these elements, because it really feeds into everything else. It really is fundamental to everything that we're doing, and it doesn't have to be prescriptive. I think the very aspect of this is that it's very open-hearted as well as open-minded. So, I mean, I would like to propose that a group of us actually take on this, and Terry Tempest Williams is simply amazing. So, I mean, I think that we would love to incorporate or expand the Constellation Project. I think I love that name, the stars. We come from the stars. But I think that I'd certainly love to be involved with that. And I was just talking to Tara as you were speaking, saying, yes! So, you know, I think that very much so. And that has been a very core to what the In Vivo network has been about. We really want to connect all of these elements, recognising that the challenges that we face today, the climate change is talking about the emotional, the spiritual climate, the economic climate, and all of these things which are inseparable. So absolutely. And just to let you all know that In Vivo is about to become the Nova Network, so we're about to change our name and identity as we become part of the Nova Institute for Health established. So Oh, yes, yes. And while I'm here, I'm also the editor-in-chief of the Challenges Journal. I've been really trying to reinvigorate this journal to take on pretty much every aspect of challenges on our planet today. So a core element of that is bringing the planetary health agenda to the fore. So it really is a challenges facing people on any scale, in any place, in any sense. So we really are, for this meeting, we have launched a special issue that we're inviting submissions. It can be people who have submitted abstracts, who want to submit a full paper. It doesn't have to be anything that's presented at this meeting. It can be just something to, again, promote this movement. So we really invite submissions. They can be original research, they can be viewpoints, and even more artistic and visionary pieces, if you like. So is that all? What else?
No, just downstairs by the registration table, you'll see a big poster already that has information
Yes.
about challenges and QR codes and ways to submit, so please see that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some questions back here.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Emmanuel, and I'm from Nigeria. And looking at this auditorium this morning when I walked in, I and my friend actually, his name is Jibola, and we are from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. We were kind of intimidated, so to say, because looking around this room, we are kind of the youngest, or let me say, smallest, maybe that's what I meant. Yeah, but it's one thing to give thumbs up to the PHA focus. It's a thing of inclusivity and bringing young people into the picture. It's kind of overwhelming that I can have the opportunity to lend my voice to something going on around the world. Like in Nigeria, we're discussing about the flooding situation. But the big problem is that planetary health is actually so interdisciplinary, very broad. And the paradox of it is that, okay, my heart is beating fine, my liver is working perfectly, but I have a cut on my leg, and all the work being done by my heart is bleeding out on the cut on my leg. And it's just really sad. So I just want to emphasize more on the area of inclusivity. It's something that we should all look at. We are young people. We have so many brilliant ideas, things we want to offer to the table. So this morning I was thinking of what to do at the conference today. Just any comment, anytime I have the chance to give my voice out. I was thinking, we are just young, we're undergraduates, we're in our final year actually, that can something like an hackathon be done? I don't know, where, just like yearly events that just maybe a project is put out and we just pick a topic. Okay, this year I want to address flooding, this year I want to address cancer issues, this year I want to address these so many diverse issues, and then we give young people on campuses opportunity to lend out their voice, to submit brilliant ideas and things that we never can imagine. So I think this will really help a long way to solve the problem of diverse things we have to look at the same time. So I really want to appeal to the PHA to give young people, especially in developing countries like Nigeria, where I come from, where we don't actually have so much resources, so much people who want to listen to us and things like that, to give us the opportunity to please lend our voices, the ideas we have, the things we want to do to receive sponsorship, to receive help, to receive assistance. And thank you.
I want to quickly respond to that, Emmanuel. Thank you for that. I think I heard you sign up then for leading the hackathon. Is that the case? No, we would love to eventually consider that option as a way that you, as youth representative, if you want to engage youth in that way, I think that's a very appropriate. I don't know, Joanna, do you have a next gen as a next gen?
I would like to invite everyone to please attend the next gen session in this room at 3:30. If you clapped, I expect to see you there. So.
Good day, everyone. I'm also from Nigeria. I'm a Planetary Health Campus ambassador from Obafemi Awolowo University. And I was just going to ask, yes, all that we are doing, the mainstreaming, clinicians for planetary health, next generation network, regional hubs, and everything. I think the goal of everything is to bring a paradigm shift to the lifestyles of individuals, of industries, I mean, everyone upon the surface of the earth. And I was just thinking about this, that somebody raised the weakness, or let me say the challenge of language when we're having the regional hub meeting earlier in the day. Yes, it's good that we have all of this energy channeled toward changing the lifestyle. But then there is a language barrier. I just want to ask, is there anything being done by Planetary Health Alliance to bridge this language barrier? Is there any resources that is available to train individuals? Because we have people in the villages who burn woods, and this thing, what we call the smoke from the wood contribute to climate change and all that. And all of these things have the way they contribute to global environmental change. So I just want to ask, is there anything that is in place in order to empower individuals who can take whatever it is that we are doing on a global level like this to their locality, all right? And in languages that will be understood by these people. That is the first thing. The second thing, I'm a student of microbiology from the same institution, like I've said earlier, and really, what caught my fancy when I saw Planetary Health Alliance, I saw opportunities of, because I have interest in public health microbiology and infectious disease epidemiology, and everybody here will agree that global environmental change is a great contributor to emergence of infectious diseases. COVID-19 is an evidence for us. So I was just thinking, is there any initiative on ground for young individuals like myself and individuals from whether undergraduates in their early years or even postgraduates? Is there any initiative on ground for them to really participate in planetary health research as it relates to infectious disease? I think it's really going to be a very good thing for them to start early, because when they start early like this, they build capacity with time and they become experts in the field, and they lend their voice to assist in mitigating the effect of global environmental change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that's like the third or fourth time that this issue of language has come up just today. And I think the short answer is we don't have a program to sort of start translating planetary health resources into the hundreds of languages that would be relevant to get out at the community scale around the world. What we do have is all of you, and so I think the recurring theme here is, unfortunately, to turn this back on you, and we've been seeing this. I mean, the planetary health textbook that we produced just got translated into French and Italian and Japanese, and that wasn't through any effort of ours, because we simply don't have the staff or the knowledge to do that, but we sort of facilitated it, and we made it easier to get black and white diagrams for the book, and we got the permissions, but it was done. I mean, I went to Paris and met the group of French, medical students and doctors who, as volunteers, sat down over the course of 6 months and translated the entire textbook and found a press, and now it's available in France and being used to build out the whole Alliance Santé Planétaire. Now, of course, all of that could be then taken to Francophone Africa and be more useful than an English version anyway. So I do think we're going to have to continue sort of outsourcing these kinds of projects to this enormous global community that collectively speaks, I don't know how many dozens of languages. In terms of the funding for research question, I do think it would be interesting to think more. I mean, this is another thing that keeps coming up. How do we create support for young investigators who want to do work, whether it's in infectious disease or food systems or built environment related to planetary health? And again, we're not going to be in the position of raising, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars that would be necessary to create a major funding initiative for research. But what we could try to help with is the networking to find out, well, what are the sources of funding? I mean, the Fogarty Institute at the National Institutes of Health is the only center in the NIH that has an international focus and has a grant-making program on global environmental change and infectious disease, for example. You may not know about the Fogarty Institute. So how do we connect, you and your colleagues in Nigeria with people that are interested in disease ecology questions in the United States to create a research collaboration? Are you aware of the new planetary health research science training program in Southern Africa that has hubs in Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania? I can't remember which other countries, but so we should have all of those kinds of resources and opportunities and networks in a central place so that young investigators at least can start to map them out and find each other. And I think we could be using Hilo better for that. But again, it's going to take all of you helping us build the capacity to create those kinds of websites and create the Hilo communities and gather the opportunities so that then you can access them. But I think it has to be done very collaboratively. Yeah, there's a question back here.
I also just want to ask if there's any online questions, just to make sure.
Thank you very much. Emmanuel Cummings from the Caribbean Hub. I'm thinking that we want to stimulate change. We want to change the world. And coming from a university, my thoughts are going towards a core curriculum. I think whenever we want to introduce changes, we have to ensure that the best place sometimes to stimulate those changes is at the university. So the question is, how can we develop, this morning we heard about a master's in planetary health that is offered in Barcelona. The point that, can we have such a, outside of a master's, but ensuring that all of our students, regardless of what background they may come from, regardless of the medical sciences, they're in the environmental sciences, they're in the social sciences, they're in law, in the arts, can we not develop such a curriculum that can be considered a core, that every student, most universities, you go to history, it's compulsory, you have to do history, you have to do IT, because all these are skills that everyone needs. You need to understand your historical background, you need to know, and so I'm thinking in the same concept as to if we can develop a course that is called Planetary Health that can be taken by all students, regardless of their background, or maybe one that is specific to certain profession, but I'm thinking one that is really interdisciplinary, that every single profession can see and understand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think that's a perfect example of what we can do as an alliance, kind of as a central organization that tries to kind of navigate this network. And that is an explicit ask, right, from our community, in which then we as a network, what we try to do is coordinate that type of work with community, with the network members. It's not that we are creating it with our staff time, we are coordinated through that network and how to produce an effort that then can speak to all of those things. In this regard, there are efforts in that north that are already being implemented in different countries and different universities. Of course, curriculum change is not as easy as just creating the curriculum, right? You need a structural change, leadership, that has the buy-in. Sometimes that buy-in comes bottom up, in which students are creating the change and asking for that change. So I think if there's interest of creating a curriculum that can speak to a multiplicity of disciplines, there is already work that's being done in that regard. There has been advances that has made. We have the Planetary Health Education Framework, and part of the challenges there is, because education needs to be place-based as well, how do we then contextualize that curriculum for those different people that are facing maybe the same challenges, but with a different context, right? And so the curriculum can't be prescriptive, right? And we can speak later more offline about that, but just want to say that that is a perfect example of an ask that we can help generate through our different networks. So thank you for that, Dr. Cummings. And Marie has another comment.
I just want to see if Maisara is here from Sunway Center. Yes. Do you want to tell us about? Can you come either find the mic or please just come up here? Oh, Joanna has it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I was just listening in, but it's really great that Dr. Emmanuel brought that up, because one of the things that maybe I could share here is the work of Sunway Center for Planetary Health. So we're based at Sunway University in Malaysia. It's a local private university, and one of the biggest things that I guess like we initiated was that to revise more so a general studies program, a course for undergraduate students. So part of being in a private university in Malaysia is that all undergraduate students have to complete a general studies course, and one of it is community service. But instead, what we've done is turn it around and do it for community service for planetary health. So what the students do is they come into the course, they learn a little bit about planetary health, but then they go out into the community, either being attached to host organizations and work on issues that they're personally interested in, so that it generates a sense of ownership among the students themselves on what are the areas that they prioritize, and what solutions that they would see. So we piloted it this year, and it was for a group of communication students, about 36 of them, I think. And it was a 7-week course. What they've done is that, they went out to a few organizations in the community and developed communications materials on planetary health. How do we communicate planetary health to the respective groups, to the respective community, but also in doing so in a way that the younger people understand. These are students themselves doing it, so they have a better understanding of it. But yeah, just wanted to share that.
Great, thank you for that example. And certainly we'll stay in touch about all of this. I just want to bring on a couple more online questions, comments, if you will. There is, let me see, one from Julio Conrath from Brazil, Trails Network, volunteer extensionist. First, my congratulations for this community. And second question is, how these extraordinary advances in planetary health can be incorporated into the socio-political guidelines of our citizen managers, like sustainable mobility and health and so on. And so I think that was a question in a sense that we started to discuss a little bit about, hey, how do we bring planetary health out of just both an academic world or also just maybe out of the health and ecosystem world, but into the broader sectors of society. And certainly that revolves around education, but also something around, like, for example, the São Paulo Declaration, where we do have specific language for different sectors. The other is from Rolf Clemens Stappen, and he just mentions, that a lot of progress has been made in planetary health, and even in the UN logo, Pope Francis speaks about planetary health, or maybe a session, which is great, but a suggestion: what is needed are stronger national and international planetary health legal regimes, such as a UN planetary health charter in the future, not today, but in the next years from 2030 as the post-SDG framework. The law plays a central role in the effectiveness of planetary health. For example, Paris 2015, what's missing is stronger involvement of the environment and health lawyers and sector. What do you think about a stronger planetary health legalization or law structure, legal structure? And others are just responding online, suggesting that this is timely, and certainly that there is work. For example, Liz Willits, another member of our community, she said, this is really important, timely, and interesting, and it's a space within which some of us work, meaning some of us within the planetary health membership, but is not represented potentially here. And so again, this is just saying that there is so much activity and so much that we don't really capture or know about, and that would be pretty exciting, I think, to capture those pieces and make sure that we are representative of the membership in their work. So definitely more interesting comments online. We will capture all of those. But back to everyone, and we will slowly be wrapping up because we have our next session at 3. Yes. Teddy?
Yes, I'm Teddy Potter from the University of Minnesota School of Nursing and honored to be chair of the Clinicians for Planetary Health. Tomorrow at 4 p.m., all of you who are clinicians, want to be clinicians, know a clinician, or have ever been cared for by a clinician, please show up. I want to make sure two things. One, I have a request and another is a comment. The request is, look at this tiny little group of people in blue and the amazing work that they're doing. So I want to make sure we give them a huge round of applause for this incredible work. And my comment is, it is not an accident that we are sitting here today in Boston. It is the home of Harvard, of course, but it's also the home of a major revolution that occurred. And that revolution occurred and created tremendous change, not because one man rode through the streets calling for one if by land, two if by sea, but because the people who knew a change had to occur inspired others to see what was possible. This room is full of people that now it's our job to go out and inspire people to be part of this revolution. We cannot rely on turning it over to the blue zone here. We need to recognize we are the Planetary Health Alliance, and our work has only begun. Watch out, folks.
Teddy, while we have you, do you want to tell a little bit about your story in planetary health and how kind of it started from little and now where it's heading? Can you tell us, just so we can be part of the inspiration that we hear today for other members? I think that'll be important.
Well, little maybe is how tall I am, but I guess what I want to celebrate is this is each of us getting bit by the bug of what's possible and the future that is something we want to build. So in nursing, we are taking this, and we didn't ask permission as much as we said this is where we need to go. In nursing, we've worked with the Planetary Health Alliance to look at the Planetary Health Education Framework. There's 2 documents you folks should have in your pocket at all times. One is the Education Framework, which gets to your question about what do we all need to share as far as teaching in our courses, and the Sao Paulo Declaration on Planetary Health, which is a brilliant document, which is our blueprint for how every single sector needs to move forward. Those 2 documents will guide everything that we have to do. So we all need to be carrying those with us at all times. So in nursing, we decided that we wanted to take the Planetary Health Education Framework, the universal language that we're all sharing, we're all going to talk about, but then what's nursing's unique contribution to how we move this forward. I got a group of people together and we said, well, maybe we'll do a nursing textbook. But then I began to realize, well, we can't do a nursing textbook if people don't know what planetary health is. You know, we're going to sell it to maybe 100 people and that'll be it, or give it away to 100 people. So I contacted somebody at the International Council of Nurses, which is our largest global nursing profession, and said, how do we publish a document? Right away the next day I heard from the president of the International Council of Nurses, who said, this is time, and we want to help you write this, and we want to serve on your writing committee. We are writing the document right now, and it's being released in July at the International Council of Nurses. So this is what I'm asking all of us to do. Take your ideas, find each other, mobilize, and get this work out in the world. It's absolutely possible.
And if you're a nurse, come find us because we want to talk to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Joyce Emefa Ado. I'm a medical doctor from Ghana.
I work for the Luca Health Medical Specialty Center, a subsidiary of the Black Ivy Group. And I chanced on Planetary Health Alliance online, and I thought, whoa, this is something that is happening in Ghana, the effects of environmental degradation on health, where you practically see that's the effects that is having on women, having babies with deformities and all. And as well, I'm also a health advocate, so I just thought to, represent Ghana in this conference and to be able to add my voice to what is happening back home. And I just wish that to see the practical example of the effects of environment on health, I think you should come to Africa. You guys seated here are really privileged, and it's an honor to be here to learn from you all, to be able to add my voice. My simple ask is, when are you coming to Africa?
Okay. I honestly hate to do this because this is such an interesting conversation, but we must. So moving to the end of this session, just want to close us out with some reminders. First off, please mark your calendars. The dates aren't on here, but they are December 5th and December 6th are our upcoming next community calls. And those community calls, as I said, they're relatively new, but they're designed to really allow us to continue doing this on a quarterly basis, coming together in Zoom community with our cameras on to put faces to names and just chat, share ideas, crowdsource from you all, and just kind of continue pushing us forward as a planetary health community. So those dates, exact times have gone out in the newsletter. They'll go out in FAM follow-up. And then just a quick plug, everyone here must be registered, but if you're not, or if anyone else doesn't, or if you know anyone who wants to receive follow-up from this meeting, register. You can do it as a virtual participant, and it just gets your name in our system to make sure that we have your email, all your information, and we can get those updates out to you post-FAM and then forever onwards. Second is responding to the annual survey. This is a pretty please ask to do so. It'll go out at the end of December. We try not to make them too long, probably 15 minutes of responses, and they really help us inform our work over the next year. So we really value our members' input, so please be on the lookout for that and try and carve out some time to give us your feedback. And then lastly, contact us if you have ideas or questions. Everyone who is here, but is welcome to come and say hi, connect with each other, connect with anyone who, memorize faces right now, if there's anyone you really wanted to follow up with. And if everyone who is asked to stand at the beginning of the session can just wave again, please. Or stand up. This is the PHA team, and you will be around for the conference, obviously. So here we are. And so lastly, we're going to start wrapping up soon, but I would like to once again remind you all that at 3:30, I believe, we have the Next Gen session, which I would strongly encourage you all to attend. This room will stay open until then. You're welcome to keep talking. The only change will be that light jazz will begin playing in the background. So thank you all for coming to the PHA member meeting, and see you soon.